Okay, so I'm going to share my screen right now. What I'm going to show you is how to create a texture in Photoshop. Now, you may recall that we have unwrapped. This looks, sorry, this looks kind of like the UVs that you created when you unwrapped your object in Maya before, does it not? Well, when you do that, you can create what's called a UV snapshot, all right? And that's what this is. Now, this looks exactly like the UVs that are in Maya. Let me show you. I'll open this project and show you what it looks like. Sorry, I should have had it open already, but I didn't. Forgive me. Come on. Here we go. All right, so here's the object that I created. It's a barrel. You can see it, right? And here are the UVs that I unwrapped. Now, this should look familiar to you from the box project, correct? So once I unwrapped them, I put them in the space here. This is where you, if they were out here, sorry. If they were out here and I rendered my UV template, they would not show up. They have to be in this square, right? 0 to, I think, what is that, 100? In the X and Y, all right? That's where they have to be. So once you unwrap them, as you did with your box, and you get them straight, then you got to put them back in here in this space, and that's called packing your UVs. After you do that, you click this little camera, and you're taking a UV snapshot. And when you click, and then you say where you want it to go, you have to select your UVs. You have to select what you want to render, and when you click apply, it generates a picture that looks like this. Okay? Everybody got that? Now, what this is going to allow me to do is put my texture together and make sure that it's going to appear exactly on my barrel like I want. So I have created for you in OneDrive a project folder. Let me show you where that is. Remember, we have a shared folder. I've invited you all to it. If you open your OneDrive on the web, not on your Mac, and click shared, you will see it. And it is Flint DDA 2 Fall 2021. And in there is a Maya project folder called Barrel. And inside that folder, in the images folder, are a whole bunch of textures of wood and metal and other things that you can use to create this texture. In addition to that, of course, is the scene file right here that I just showed you. Everybody with me so far on that? All right. So to start this process, what you need to do, what I always do is I open this thing in Photoshop, and then I make a duplicate layer like this. Then I turn this one off. Then I select the bottom layer because the next thing I bring in, I always want the UV template layer to be on top. All right, and I'll show you why in a minute. So to start this, I am going to go to where I have these images stored, which is right here. See, I have sawed lumber ends, I have metal, I have wood, I have all sorts of things here. Let's say I wanted to use this wood, all right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this, and this is a little quirk of Photoshop right now, and I'm going to open it in Photoshop. There it is. And it just opened in another tab. Do you see that? All right, now the reason I did it that way is because every time I try to open something from OneDrive on these computers from within Photoshop using File Open like this, it crashes. Don't ask me why, I don't know. So if you experience that, go to the folder where the images are, right-click and select Open With, like I just did. Got it? All right. So I'm going to take this picture of wood, and I'm going to bring it into here, and I'm going to use it to create my barrel planks. So I'm going to hit Command A to select all. See that? You can also do that here. You go up to Select and click All. Then I'm going to hit Command C to copy that. You can also do that here. Then I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to paste it in. And notice it went above where I was selected. Now, I don't see it, and that's not very useful. But the way I fix that is I select the top UV layer here, and I change its blending mode to screen. And now I can see it. And not only can I see it, but I can see my UV lines between them. I can see them on top of the thing. If I want to make these lines a little brighter, then I can right-click and duplicate that top layer. That'll make them a little brighter. Sometimes you need to do that. Everybody got that? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock these two layers because I don't want to accidentally move them. So I'm going to click the little lock here. Click the little lock. Now these are locked. So now I'm going to just work on this layer. The first thing I need to do is rotate it, correct? Just rotated the wrong way. So I'm going to go to Edit. Actually, I'm going to go to Image, Rotation, 90 degrees counterclockwise. Whoop, wrong one. I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, 90 degrees clockwise. It doesn't matter. Then I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to take this layer and I'll put it right here. Now that is probably going to be a little too thin. So I'm going to hit Command T. I just want to pull them out this way and make them wider. See when I pull out, see what happens? I need to hold down Shift to make that happen. So I'm going to pull that out about like that, I think. Then I'm going to repeat this down the line here so that I have planks for my barrel. To do that, I need to duplicate this layer. So I'm going to right-click and duplicate it. And I'm going to move it out. Snap it into place. Duplicate it again. Move it out. Snap it into place. And there we go. Now, I want to see what this looks like on my barrel. So I'm going to turn these two layers off. Notice I have a little gap right here. So I'm going to select that top one and nudge it over with my arrow keys until there is no more gap. Probably going to do the same there and the same there. All right. And now I'm going to render this out. I'm going to go to File, Export as, and I'm just going to leave it as PNG, 2048 by 2048. And I'm going to click Export, and then hopefully it's going to ask me where I want it to go. I need to make sure I put it in the right folder. So I'm going to click this little expansion arrow here and expand so I can see the whole Finder. And my folder happens to be in my OneDrive. Remember this weird little file path we have here. You want to put it in your Images folder. There we go. Now, this is saved now as Barrel UV JPEG. That was probably not a good idea, because now I've overwritten this thing. So I'm going to do that again. Let me just fix that. I probably should have named it something else. I should have named this, instead of UV, I should have named it albedo, okay, or diffuse or something like that. Now I need to fix my mistake, so let me do that real quick and export this back out as Barrel UV. See? There, fix my mistake. All right, turn this back on. And now let's apply this to this object in Maya. To do that, I'm just going to right click on it. Whoop, select Assign New Material. Going to do a standard surface shader. You should know this process by now. Find the shader and change the color to the file I just rendered. And it should be in the images folder. There it is. Boom. And if I turn on Show Shaded in Viewport, there you have it. Remember, though, we have to fix the roughness. Those barrels are not shiny. And the reason I'm seeing this is because I'm still in UV editor mode, right? That's the reason it's tinted blue like that. If I turn this off, you can see that it looks normal. Now, do you think that those boards are the right width? I can turn off edged faces here. Huh. You think those boards are the right width? I think they look pretty good. Notice that the seams here need to be continuous, right, between the bands. That's why I have them laid out like this. Does that make sense? All right, so now I think I want to make the barrel tops here. So I'm going to open up another wood texture. But remember, I can't do it that way in Photoshop. I'm just going to go back to the Finder and find another sort of planky looking texture. Oh, I don't know. Just pick one, Flint. How about that one? Right click, open with Photoshop 2021. Command A, select all. Command C, copy. And then make sure you're in the right order here. Command V, paste. So there's that. Now I think that this probably needs to be, these probably need to be a little wider. So again, I'm going to hit Command T for free transform. That can also be found here under Edit. Hold down Shift, I'm just going to pull those out like that. Now hopefully maybe I can even just make them a little bigger altogether and then just pull them over here so they can both be right on top of this. Mute your mic, please. Okay, so now I've got that, but I have a problem. I have a problem. The problem is that now my texture here is overlapping this area where I don't want that to happen. So this is my problem. So I have to actually delete this part of this texture. To do that, I'm going to use my circular select tool, and I'm going to get right here. See my selection? I'll hold down Shift and Alt. No, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. Actually, what I'm going to do is use my, I think I'll use my lasso tool and just sort of quickly draw like this. And then hit delete and deselect. Y'all know about deselect in Photoshop? Command D. Delete. You can also just start making a new selection. Same difference. That looks pretty slobby, but that's basically what you got to do, right? Okay, so I've now got my texture isolated to where I want. If I want to see what it looks like, I need to turn off these two layers and export it again. And I need to export it as the same name that I had before, which was, it's going to go to the same place, and it's the barrel albedo, this one here. So all I got to do really is click on that name, click Save, Replace, and then go back to Maya, and my change will be apparent, I hope. Why not? You know why it's not apparent? I don't know. Don't tell me I have to reload this thing. Yeah, apparently I do. So there you go. There's the top and the bottom now. All right, to make the bands, it's a very simple process. All you do is go back to Photoshop, turn on your template layers, and now the bands are here. These wide pieces right here. These are the bands. All right. And the bands need to be metal. So I'm gonna again go back to my images where I have those textures, and I'm gonna find some metal that I like. I think I'm gonna use this one. And I'm gonna open it up. Select all, Command A, Command C for copy, paste it in there, move it into place. Whoop. Get the move tool, move it into place. I need it to be right there. And this one I can probably just hit Command T and hold down Shift and do this with. Don't want it to look too distorted. But you can see that, you know, I can just leave that right there and it can just delete the parts I don't want. So I'm going to use my rectangular select tool, and I'm going to delete it from there and there. I hope this is right. I think it is. And there. Now, let's see what that looks like. Turn off these layers. Export. Albedo. Replace. And probably have to do this again. I can click reload. There you go. See, now I have bands. I've got a little bleed over right here, as you can see. I need to address that. It looks like it's a little off. You see how it looks like it's shifted down? In all cases. So I need to look at that. It looks like I just need to make sure it's covering these areas properly. I had the right areas covered. Turn this back on and take this one and select it and then bump it up. Well, they're all together, aren't they? Now, this is what sucks about doing textures like this, because you got to keep exporting it and saving your changes. And you really don't know what you really don't know if you're flying blind or not. So I don't know if it's upside down or not. I probably should have figured that out. Didn't look like it moved at all, did it? All right. I'm going to move it a lot. We'll see what happens there. At least I'll know which way I'm going, right? There you go. I was going the right direction. See? You're in the right place. All right, so this top part here is still not textured. Still not textured. But before I do that part, I want to show you how to make rivets. Rivets. Everybody watching? This is easy as heck. All right, so you got your metal pieces, right? And let's say you want to have some rivets in here. To do that, you get the circular select tool, and you just hold down Shift and Alt, and you make a little circular selection. If you want to do two at once, you can hold down Shift and Alt and just add to your selection here. So now I have two. I'm going to go ahead and create these so you can see how it works. I don't care if they're in place or not. Once you selected your metal here, make sure you're on the metal layer and hit Command-C, Command-V. And notice I just created a new layer here. Do you see that? Because I pasted those two little pieces in there. Now I'm going to use layer styles to create my rivets. Double click on the layer, and we're going to select bevel and emboss. You see how they just popped up? And you can select that and access the settings. The depth will make it stand out more. And the size, see that? And then you can also add, if you want to, a drop shadow on it. And play around with the size of the shadow. See it? See the shadow? And the spread and the distance. See the little distance there? And the opacity. And click OK. So now I have 3D rivets. How cool is that? And I can move them into place. Now guess what I can do with these? I can duplicate that layer. No, I don't want to delete that layer. I want to duplicate it. And move them into place. Do it again. And move them into place. Now you might notice that I end up with a lot of layers here, correct? And it might look a little confusing. To make that better, I can select layers by holding down Shift. And then I can create layer folders like so. So now this group will be rivets. Does that make sense? Yep. Now to make this, to see what this looks like, I'm going to close this, turn these two layers off, export. Overwrite that, barrel albedo, place, go back to Maya, go to my color and reload, and look for my rivets. There they are. See? Now to do this top part here, what I need to do is make board ends. That's why I gave you board ends. So what we're going to do there, and I'm just going to show you how to do a couple because I don't want to spend too much time doing this. I'm going to go back to the Finder so I can find my sawed board ends, and you can see I have some here and some here, right? So I'm just going to use this one and right-click, open with Photoshop 2021. Command A, Command C, Command V, zoom out, move this over, and I'm going to just hit Command T to transform this because they're kind of big. We'll zoom in here, and they need to be about the same size as my boards here, see? I'm just kind of just going to do that. And then what I want to do is select them. So I'm going to get my rectangular select tool, and I'm going to select a piece here like that. I'm going to Command C, Command V. It just created a new layer with that little thing in it. You get my move tool, and there it is. So now what I got to do is I got to hit Command T and rotate this, scale it so that it kind of fits where it's supposed to fit. Then I need to get my select tools. I'm going to use my polygonal select tool here, and I'm going to go like this. Delete. You see what the polygonal select tool does? All I'm doing is clicking each time here. And I can draw a straight line. Whoop. Dang it. What am I doing? I think I'm double clicking. There we go. So now I created that one little board piece. Now I can reuse this, can't I? I can just put this around several places and put it over here. Nobody will know the difference. And then I can grab another one and do the same thing. And eventually I will have this done. Once I do, I'm going to turn it off. I'll hide this layer because I don't want it in there. And export it. I'm almost done with this demonstration, and then I'll let you guys give it a try, okay? And then reload the texture. I don't see it. It should be on this one. Oh, you know what? I know what I did. No, it's on there. Try that again. Why is it so slow? Oh, I exported it as barrel UV again, like a dummy. And there it is, and it's not quite right. I don't know why that would be, but it's not quite right. Should be right on there. Tell me. Oh, I did. Oh, thank you for telling me that. That's why everything was off, right? Okay, all right. So don't do that. Everybody hear that? I accidentally moved my UV map, my template in Photoshop. Or in Maya or in Photoshop? I did? Oh. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. That's why. Okay, so don't do that. If you just open this scene and start working, it'll be fine, okay? It will be, because I will not have been moved, right? All right, so that's how you do that. I know it's tedious, and I'm sorry for that. That's just the way it is. If you wanted to put like a cork or something in the top of your barrel, you could do that. All you'd have to do is find some cork texture of some sort, right? Select a little circular selection, paste it in there, and then do what? Put that layer style on it, just like I did for the rivet, right? That's all you have to do. You could also make like a hole if you wanted to, I think. Let's try that. I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to make a little circular selection right here. And I'm going to fill it with black. And then I'm going to select the barrel top and delete the piece that's around it. So see, now what I have here is, oops, I have a hole there, right? So if I select the barrel top piece and put a layer style on it, bevel and emboss, see, I can make like a hole there, see? See how it looks like a hole? Whoa, that big. Huh. And of course, turn these off, export. Turn that one off. And I have a hole, see? All right. Now, one final thing. When you're making a texture like this in Photoshop, it may be that the images you use are not quite together, and it may be that they can't be quite together. In other words, there might be little gaps in where you're putting the pieces together. You with me? Understand what I'm saying? So what you should do in that case is create a layer at the bottom here, like so, and then sample one of the colors in your image, and then fill that layer with that color, like so. Come on now, what's going on? It's not letting me fill the layer. Come on, I've done this a million times. All right, I'm going to use the paint bucket tool. Still won't let me fill it. All right, let's try this. There you go. So you have a background like that, right? So this is sort of a general color that's sort of similar to everything in your scene, so that if there's any gaps in your texture, that it will not look bad. Does that make sense? Yep. And then, of course, you will export as make sure you always select the correct one and replace. Now, let me show you one more thing here. Is everybody listening? You can also very easily in Photoshop generate a normal map. All you got to do is turn off all the unwanted layers and then collapse everything. You got to select all the layers and merge them. And this is temporary. All right? Because it's got to all be one layer. Everybody understand that? Then you go to Filter, 3D, Generate Normal Map. And when you do, you will get a normal map. Now, you might have to mess with it. You might have to check or uncheck invert height. I think that was correct. And you might have to play around with the detail scale. Make it more subtle. And then all you got to do is click OK. And you have now generated a normal map. Then you can export that. Now this one you will export as not albedo, but normal. So we'll take this and we'll rename this one normal or NML. Same thing, right? Or just N. Some people just do N. Then we can go back here, select our thing, go to Geometry, Bump Mapping, File, click here, find our normal map, and then go back and play around with the bump depth. Right? What's up? What's up? Huh? Yeah, just a minute. And that is how you generate a normal map. Now, here's what you must do. Is everybody listening? Excuse me. You must go back to Photoshop and undo this layer merging. Put it back like it was. And you must File, Save As, and put this in your project folder where everything else is. You can just name it Barrel Photoshop, right? And save it. Now, why do I want to do that? Why do I want to do that? Right, so I can go back and adjust things later. I'll have all my layers intact and everything, and I can just change things if I want to. If I don't do that, I will not be able to do that. I'll have to start all over again. Right? So, always save your Photoshop file. All right? All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I want you guys to give this a try. However, let me talk to you about how to get this file. I put it on OneDrive for you, and OneDrive is of course, on the web at onedrive.live.com, and then sign in with your GCS credentials. And you will find it under the shared link. It's Flint DDA 2 Fall 2021, and it is the barrel folder. To use this, check it, and then click download. And it will download to your computer as a compressed zip file. And that compressed zip file will be titled OneDrive. What do you do to uncompress a file on a Mac? You just double click it. That's all you do. All right? So what I want you to do with this is do exactly what I just did. I want you to make a texture in Photoshop and apply it to that barrel. Got it? And don't move those UVs like I did in Maya. All right, let's get started. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and leave the meeting.